A year ago, Reddit user u/meanowl posted about this scenario with her fiancé. Am I the butthole for not making coffee how my fiancé wants me to? Weird title, 23F, no, but this has been a point of contention for a while. My fiancé, 25M, is a foodie and is extremely particular about a few things, one of them being coffee. We use a manual grinder, get distilled water. The water in our area is really hard and according to him affects the taste, but I don't notice anything, and we have an AeroPress and a metal coffee filter to make the coffee. I'm very much not a foodie, unless being a Sour Patch Kids connoisseur is a thing. My fiancé weighs his coffee beans to make sure that he's using the exact right amount, changes the setting on the coffee grinder depending on whether he's using the AeroPress or the metal coffee filter, measures the water, and if he's using the AeroPress lets the coffee grounds in water brew for a certain amount of time before actually making the coffee. On the other hand, I use a scoop to measure my coffee beans, use whatever setting the grinder is on, usually just use tap water, eyeball the water instead of measuring it, and don't let it sit to brew. And you know what? It's fine. It tastes fine. It makes me happy. The end. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Problem is that this really bothers my fiancé. We've had multiple arguments about me making my coffee wrong, and it's very normal for him to badger me weigh my coffee beans or switch the coffee grinder to the optimal setting while I'm making my coffee. If I'm making coffee for him, sure, I'll measure the beans and all of that jazz because I know that he can taste the difference, but I don't think that I should have to jump through all of those hoops for something that doesn't affect him. On the other hand, he seems to be really bothered by this. Today, as I was trying to scoop coffee beans into the grinder, he reached around me to put the scale he uses in front of me and asked me to please weigh my coffee beans. I was really frustrated because we've had this conversation so many times, so I snapped the word no at him, and he walked away and muttered you, too, saying that even though I hadn't said it, I'd definitely been thinking F you. For the record, I wasn't thinking that. So AmITheA for not making coffee how my fiancé thinks I should and for sometimes snapping at him when he gets pushy about it? Edit, I don't know if this is important, but I drink decaf and he drinks regular, so I'm never making coffee for both of us. I'm either making coffee for him or I'm making coffee for myself. Edit 2, I sat him down and told him that I needed him to never comment on how I make my coffee and how I was making it. He repeated it back to me in his own words to check that he understood me. A counselor once told me that this is helpful to do in an argument, and then he agreed. Edit 3, okay, people keep bringing this up. Google an AeroPress because I don't feel like explaining it. Basically, you push on a phallic symbol until you have coffee. Putting hard water through it does not damage it. As much as my fiancé drives me crazy, I would never do something to damage his equipment because it's important to him. NTA. Why should he care how you make your coffee? He needs to distance himself from things that don't affect him. Honestly, it would be like you telling him to stop weighing his coffee or using distilled water because since you can't tell the difference, it bothers you that he can. Would he think that was reasonable? Edit, if his counter-argument is, but my way is right, he's wrong. His way is how he likes it, there is no objectively right way to do. Alton Brown would tell you using distilled water is madness, spring water would be better. LOL, my so hates that I use a single tea bag for a whole pot of tea. He thinks it needs at least 3, per the instructions. I just don't like it that way. You know what he does? He doesn't drink the tea, he just makes his own. It's literally that easy to not care. NTA. NTA. I'd run for the hills. I couldn't spend the rest of my life listening to that, sure. Yeah, it's one thing to be precise about making yourself coffee. Like, you do you, if that's your jam then rock on. However, when you're demanding someone else makes their coffee your way, that's a problem. He needs to manage his own issues and let OP drink their coffee in peace. Especially considering if she's making it for him, she does it his way. Exactly. It's like getting mad at someone else for eating a donut because you're on a diet. NTA. And as a certified coffee snob, I can add that distilled water is terrible for coffee. You want some mineral content in water to get the best coffee flavor. I don't know if it's actually distilled or if that was the wrong word. The water in this area is so hard that there are things outside of grocery stores where you can get good water. I don't know if this is pure distilled water, less hard, or has some mineral content. NTA. Why does he care what you do with your coffee? This was exhausting just to read, let alone have to deal with every day. The you, too, because he claims you were thinking you is also uncalled for. He sounds like a passive-aggressive control freak. NTA. When you make his coffee, you do it the way he likes, so he needs to quit managing how you make your coffee. Info, is controlling in any other ways? I'm not OP, but I'd bet on it. Behaviors like this don't occur in a vacuum. NTA. Have you thought about drinking instant coffee? Gasp. My petty self would love to see his face when he sees you making it, lol. I was thinking a couple of trips to Starbucks would do the trick. Well, you don't like the way I make coffee for myself, so I thought I'd just let someone else make it. NTA. You make coffee how you want. Does he have OCD or another mental illness? Neither of us are diagnosed, but both of us have read things written by people with autism about their experiences and thought, yeah, I can relate to that. As someone with chronic OCD and autism, I can say that his behavior makes no sense to me. I can't understand getting this upset about someone else's way of doing things when it doesn't affect him at all. I'd understand if this happened once and you told him that you don't appreciate his behavior and he quit, but not that you've had full-blown arguments about this. As others have said, this seems like a controlling thing, but that's just my 2 cents on this. NTA. He's being ridiculous. It's your coffee, why does he even care? A year later. Reddit user u/meanowl posted a follow-up about to the original thread just recently. Update, AmITheA for not making coffee how my fiancé wants me to. So it's been about a year since I made this post. Whenever I read posts like mine on here, I'm always wondering, did OP leave that butthole? So for those of you who care, I left that butthole. A lot of you were on the nose that this wasn't the only way that he was controlling. My ex believes that he's the smartest person in the room, so if you're doing something differently than how he would, then you're doing it wrong and must be corrected. I'm not saying that everyone's responses to my post gave me a revelation and I immediately knew what I had to do, but it was a nail in the coffin. I'm living within an hour of my parents now, when before I was on the opposite side of the country. I have a job as a caregiver and am planning to go to grad school to be a social worker. I have a boyfriend who doesn't try to control every aspect of my life. When I go grocery shopping, I'm not stressing about accidentally buying the wrong brand of pasta, which was the right brand of pasta when we lived in a different state. I still don't get that, or juice that's from concentrate. And I've switched to pre-ground coffee because F you, I want to. None of this would have happened if I'd stayed with him. So yeah, thank you to everyone who played a tiny role in helping me see what an unhealthy relationship I was in. Now he's sat alone in that room, it'll always be true. I still wouldn't be too sure about that. Pre-ground coffee? Next it'll be tea in bags. No, next is Gasp Instant. Congrats! How did X take the breakup? He'd seen it coming and had been casually telling me that I wasn't mentally stable enough to make any major life decisions. He told me that I had depression, anxiety, and autism, all of which a licensed therapist has told me I don't have, and when I broke up with him, he doubled down on it and said that I was doing this because I needed therapy. He maintained that stance until a breakfast we had together where he spent the entire time telling me everything that I did wrong in the relationship and then had a revelation that I was right and that we wanted different things. He'll never understand that he was abusive, but he at least knows that I'm not coming back to him. A friend of mine once asked their partner during a breakup, "What do you do to make my life better?" They couldn't think of a thing. It's something I keep in mind now. I remember your post. So glad you ditched him. Enjoy your pre-ground coffee. I'm always wondering, did OP leave that butthole? So for those of you who care, I left that butthole. Snort. I love update posts. Many times as I read posts I think, I hope they post an update and let us know how they're doing. Love this update. Many times someone will hear of a small behavior or quirk and say it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes it isn't. But there are times when it is absolutely indicative of a larger problem. Those of us who've dated controlling buttholes can see the difference clearly. And it's damned hard to see when you are living it. Be well, OP. So happy for you.
That's all for today. If you want to hear more hilarious, scary, devastating, jaw-dropping, heartwarming, amazing Reddit content, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for more content. Thanks and have a great day.